I guess start at the beginning, Rollyn.
All right, I grew up in small town America in an alcoholic family. My father was an alcoholic. I was emotionally abused from the very beginning, cut down, told that I would never amount to anything. A lot of derogatory statements were flung at me on a steady basis growing up. There was not the encouragement. There wasn't the family bond. Family really meant nothing to me. Just a place to go and eat and sleep and survive. So that's the foundation of my life right there. I didn't have a father-son bond. I didn't have a mother-son bond. I didn't have a sibling bond to speak of. So we learn survival techniques as we go through our life to protect ourselves. I went through grade school in a small city, and then we moved to a small town where I began third grade, and also I began Boy Scouts. I became a member of the Boy Scouts of America. I would have been 9, I believe. Scouting was fun. Had some friends. I was a little kid. That was Cub Scouts.
Was that maybe another place that you got more of a sense of family, would you say? Were there things about it that were much more pleasant than being in your situation?
It was a comfort.
Kind of like an escape.
Yeah, an escape. I don't know if I would call it family because I really didn't understand what family was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an area of comfort. So I did a lot in scouting. That became a focus. At home, I worked as a child building cars, working on motors. My family was big in auto racing. So I learned early how to drive, how to tear motors apart, put them back together, all the critical areas to look for, this sort of thing, as well as daily chores, building, anything that has to be done. We lived in the country. We were fairly self-sufficient. Being in an abusive type of household, there aren't a lot of people that come to visit, and that's by design, because abusive people usually shelter their world from the outside. The outside is a threat to them. It can take away their power. So all of this stuff that I never knew about while I was growing up became evident later in life, and we'll get into that eventually. So anyways, scouting became my focus in my good times and my release from what was going on at home. I also had a creative side to me and an entrepreneurial side to me. No matter how bad things were, and I didn't really at that time realize they were bad, but I was entrepreneurial. I wanted to make my own money and get things that I wanted and do things that I wanted to do. So I sold seeds from these advertisements on the back of Boys Life magazine, which was a scouting type of magazine. And I would join these little clubs to sell things and get prizes if you did so many sales and all that. So I did that, and I got a harmonica. I got a little Instamatic camera that took 126 cartridge film that you had to send away to be developed and wait for the pictures to come back. That was kind of cool. But with my little harmonica, I wrote my first song when I was about 11 years old and recorded it on a little tape recorder that I had. The song was called Nobody Likes Me, and it was kind of a bluesy number with a harmonica. But that's where my frame of mind was back then. Even back then, nobody likes me. I was told that nobody likes me, and no matter what I did, there was nothing I could do that anybody would ever like. But I was an achiever, nonetheless. I would excel in things that I would do. In gym class, I would be one of the best, one of the jocks. But it was very hard to accept that within myself. How could this be? This conflicts with what I'm being told. I played football, I wrestled, I ran track, I pole vaulted. I was good at it, but I didn't realize that I was good at it. So I didn't have an incentive to be even better, which I could have been.
Right.
But in scouting, there was no comparison, so to speak, like you have in sports. In scouting, you're just who you are. In sports, you try to be the best at what you're doing. So scouting was a great attraction to me because of that, because it kind of fit not having to be important, or I didn't have to be anybody special. I could just go and do and learn. So that worked out good. I always had a drive for music. I used to listen to the radio. I had a little transistor radio with AM. FM wasn't around yet. And I listened to a local channel. I would listen to the disc jockey, listen to the music, listen not necessarily to the songs, but I was listening to what was happening and how it happened on the radio. That was intriguing to me. I didn't understand it. I didn't know how it was all taking place. But I knew there was something, there was something I liked about it and something I wanted to know more about. So this all ties together because as I got older, I had my best friend that lived the next farm down from me, that we did everything together. I'm just going to call him John. Well, John and I were tight. We did everything together. There was nobody else around us, and we were the same age. So if one of us did something, the other one automatically was a part of it. That's the way it was. One of us signed up for the wrestling team, so the other one naturally had to sign up too. So I'm not sure which of us signed up first, but we were both on the wrestling team. And living out in the country poses a problem. Getting to wrestling practice when both parents are working. Not just my parents, but his parents both worked as well. So the logical way to do it would be to stay after school. Our wrestling practice wasn't until around 4 o'clock, and we got out of school around 2:30. So we decided to stay down there. At this point, I'm about 13, 14 years old, somewhere around there. And we would walk around our little town, and I would see things that I've never seen before, because now I'm walking around looking. We stopped at this little restaurant every day that we stayed after school, and we got an eclair and a Coke. And the eclairs were day-old stuff, so they were really cheap. That's why we bought them. Okay. So one day we're walking around the town, and I looked down into a stairwell that went to a basement, and I saw above the door down there the letters WXXX. And that was the radio station that I had been hearing on my radio in my room. And I immediately rushed down the stairs, went through the door, and I'm standing there looking at a receptionist behind a desk. And she says, "May I help you?" Well, at the same time she was saying that, I looked over to my right and I saw a big glass window with that guy behind the glass. He had headphones on and a nice big microphone in front of him. And that was the guy that I had been listening to. And I was drawn to that window, and that was my first experience in radio.
It's the Wizard of Oz.
The man behind the microphone. And from that point on, I would stop there every single day. And John had no interest whatsoever in it. So we were doing different things. But one day, a fellow in a suit came out, and he said, "Are you interested in this sort of thing?" And I said, "Of course." And from that point on, I was hired into the radio station to do some production work, which was, very early stuff in radio back then, working in a production room. And I got going in radio. That was another big out for me. Not in front of the public per se, however, affecting the public in some way without being seen. Interesting. Okay, I still had my scouting going on. In scouting, I had gone through puberty by this time now, and things were a little different in scouting. I wasn't a Cub Scout anymore. I was a Boy Scout, which is for the older kids. And there were other Boy Scouts in my troop that were my age or older, and we would all get together on campouts and have homosexual relations that I took as being part of growing up, part of the norm. I'm being taught this at a time in my life when the sexual experience feels really good. And things at home are not good at all. Nothing feels good there. So this continued throughout my scouting, career.
Rollyn, was it just your peers, or were there any leaders of the scouts involved?
There were no adult leaders unless some of the older scouts were actually adults.
Okay.
I'm not really aware of that at the time, but they were leaders in the troop, which Boy Scouts has its own chain of command,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily the adult scout leader, but it might be an assistant scout leader or what they call a senior patrol leader or a patrol leader, which are older kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember what the oldest might have been, but I do know that there were probably at the lowest, maybe 3, at the highest, maybe as many as 6 of us that would have these relations. And of course, at the same time, nature takes over, and I'm attracted to girls in school. I had several different girlfriends throughout my high school, middle school, high school. I do remember an incident early when I was in maybe 7th or 8th grade in middle school, and there was a girl that I really liked, and we were like boyfriend, girlfriend, puppy love type of stuff. And I remember going somewheres during class and coming back down the hallway, and I came around a corner, and there was my girlfriend kissing one of the other classmates of mine, and it just crushed me at that point. I remember seeing that, and it's stuck with me, and it's like, how could she do that, And then I'm thinking, of course, I'm no good. That's how she could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a devastating blow to my, my pursuit of a girlfriend or trusting girls at that point. Well, anyways, time goes by. We move through high school. I was very shy. And in 9th grade, I think it was, when I had to give a report in front of the class. At this point, I had started at the radio station, but I was doing production work, which means that I was not on the air. I was just doing stuff behind the scenes. But I remember having to give a report one day, and I couldn't do it because I was way too shy, and I told the teacher when she called me up to give this report. And I went up to her and I said, I can't give this report. She said, why? I said, because I'm shy. And she said to me, how long do you plan on being shy? I didn't have an answer. I went back to my seat and thought about it. And that was a turning point. From that point on, I decided that I wasn't going to be shy. I guess that's a choice we make. It's not something that we are. So I started taking public speaking classes and learning things at the radio station about going on the air and being a part of broadcasting that way. Start throwing myself out there more in the public eye. I started making some big advances in Boy Scouts and becoming more of a leader, taking on this role. One of us, John or I, talked to an Army recruiter, and one of us decided to sign up. So we both signed up.